All right, we are recording.
Awesome. All right, you guys, welcome tonight. And Dave wanted me to start out by just sharing my short story. So I'm just going to take a couple of seconds and do that for you. So I'm Jill Birth from Pleasant, Utah, and I'm a busy mom of three children. And I've been challenged with my weight my entire life. In fact, I started my first diet when I was in third grade. And since that day, it's been a roller coaster ride of trying so many different things out there to lose weight. I was introduced to Isagenics by one of my patients at the dental office around the same time I was trying out for the Biggest Loser show on TV. And I ended up being one of the semifinalists for the show, but I promised her that if I didn't get on the show, I'd do Isagenics. And I wasn't chosen for the show, and I made true to my promise. I started my Isagenics system the same week that the contestants went onto the ranch, the season that I would have been on. And by the season finale, 7 months later, I had lost more weight than any of the contestants did while they were on the ranch the entire time, working out like 8 to 12 hours a day. And I was just working out like 3 to 4 hours a week at home. And so since I started my isogenic system, I've released 131 pounds, half my body weight. And now I'm the fun mom that my kids always wanted me to be. And I don't sit on the sidelines any longer. I totally live my life. And because of my product results, I was compelled to share this with others. And I was able to reach a six-figure income in a short amount of time and quit my full-time job of 22 years as a dental assistant. And so now I get to work when I want and play when I choose. And I get to do it all from the comfort of my home and being with my kids. And I absolutely love my life. And it's blessed my life so much physically and financially in every single way of my life. Um, Dave, thanks for letting me share my short story with you. And now at this time, I would love to introduce Dave. I asked him tonight to talk about one of my favorite products in Isogenics. It's a standalone product. It has brilliant minds behind it, and it's made a huge difference in my life. So I want to introduce you guys to the famous, amazing Dave MacArthur. He's Isogenics 66 millionaire. He has an amazing podcast out there in training. It's called Mechanic to Millionaire. And Dave's story touches lives all over the nation. It's one of the top podcasts in the world right now. And it's totally changed my life with my mindset and just emotionally and mentally. So Dave has trained alongside of John Anderson and Bill Andrews about Product B isogenesis. In fact, Bill has told him several times that he knows more about Product B isogenesis than he even does, that Dave knows more than Bill does. And so we're so blessed tonight to have the Product B master on the line with us tonight. So Dave, I'm going to turn it all over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jill. I appreciate that. And I love your story, and it is so inspiring. You've touched so many people as well. And untold, that ripple effect, when we just make the mindset. Let me go back to this first slide. Let's see here. Go this way. The past doesn't have to dictate our future, right? And when we set a vision and a goal for ourselves and we just go for it, who cares what anybody else thinks? Who cares about our past, right? We go forward with a vision and just set that objective, that goal, that target that we want to reach. And Isogenics just creates an environment for us to foster that belief and that goal and to see it through to fruition. There we go. So I'm just excited to share one aspect of Isogenics as far as the products go, and that's Product B. Before I get started, I just want to say this presentation is for training purposes. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any illnesses or diseases. All right, there's your disclaimer. So Bill Andrews is a geneticist, and I know Bill now personally. In fact, I just got a text from his brother. I haven't had a chance to text him back yet, just a few minutes ago. And he said he's back to running again because of Product B. So Bill, at a very young age, he said, by the time I was 12 years old, I pretty much knew what I was going to do with my life. I was just going to do this little thing called stopping aging, curing aging. And he became a geneticist and had some huge breakthroughs in the research. In fact, he got second place Inventor of the Year with one of his breakthrough discoveries in the research, along with, what we're talking about here tonight with this product being a telomere support product. So let me go into this. Here you have Bill Andrews being featured on Popular Science, and it was one of the longest articles on any one individual. I think it was like 15 pages or something like that. I have it here in my office, and just going over his research, the man who would stop time and what he had discovered, and some of the things that he contributed to this science. His lab is the only lab in the world that has been exclusively working on the research of telomeres. So, what are telomeres? They're the tips of our chromosomes, seen here in red. And they're like the duct tape that holds the DNA together inside the chromosome. So, this is a nucleus of a cell. So, we have over 100 trillion cells that make up the human anatomy. And every single cell has its own nucleus with its own chromosomes and its own DNA. The DNA you're looking at right here, they look like steps in a ladder, right? Like a twisted ladder. And they bond right here when DNA is manufactured. So that's a nucleic bond where those colors come together. And what they found is that the ends of the chromosomes are wearing away. And even more recently, what they've linked that to is every symptom of aging and every degenerative disease. If you think of your DNA as the software that tells all of this cell, it communicates information to this cell, and then they carry it out, and it ends up showing up and being mirror reflected by the outside of the cell as well. How healthy that cell is, the communication, and how it shows up for work every day, basically. And they've linked every symptom of aging in every degenerative disease to that wearing away of the telomere, damaging the DNA, which then mirror reflects in the cells. So if it's a bone cell and you have damaged DNA, your bones aren't going to be as dense. They're not going to be as healthy. Same with your eyes, your skin, your hair, your organs, everything, your brain, the way you think. All of that has been traced back to the telomeres. And that was awarded the Nobel Prize in 2009. So pretty recent information as far as the understanding of it. A lot of it, some of what I'm going to share with you tonight has not even been put in textbooks yet and is not being taught in schools. So some of this is still laboratory information, but because we work directly with Bill Andrews, we're able to, get the information and the foundation research behind in depth behind telomeres. Now, the telomeres shouldn't be doing that. They shouldn't be wearing away. Isn't it amazing how the human body works? Every issue that the body has, it can resolve those issues. It has an innate ability to counter any effects, and it literally has the ability to counter the shortening of the telomeres. In fact, that system that's in our body, it's called telomerase, that prevents the telomere from getting shorter. We're suppressing it worse than we ever have in the history of being able to monitor this. We're now going backwards in lifespan. The Surgeon General said that this generation of children will not outlive their parents. They won't live as long. So we're going backwards. And it's because of several reasons, not getting the nutrients our body needs to support this telomerase system. It needs fuel, it needs nutrients to be able to run it effectively. So not only are we depriving it of those, but also outside environmental issues, stress, toxicity, industrial chemicals, things like that. They know that smoking, alcohol, and tobacco, that those types of things, chemicals, industrial chemicals, that they actually shorten and speed up the telomere process as well. So if you're not feeding the telomerase and then you're hitting it from the outside environment and stresses and shortening it and making more of a demand on the telomerase, but you're not yet backing the telomerase to work properly and function properly because you're not feeding it the nutrients it needs, that's like burning the candle at both ends. And so again, this is linked back to all of the symptoms really and the issues that we don't like as human beings, the skin, hair, eyes, organs, bones, endurance, flexibility. I often mention like an NFL football player. When do they think about retiring? Typically mid 30s. They start getting past 35 years old. They're getting fairly old in the NFL. Every one of the issues for why they are retiring is a telomere issue, because it affects your nervous system, it affects your muscular system, it affects your joints and your ligaments. All of that can be traced back to telomere issues and those cells not functioning as optimally. Well, why are they not functioning as optimally? Because they lost some software, some information from the DNA, because the telomeres are short. In fact, when your telomeres get to a certain length, it's the death of the cell. When they shorten to a certain shortness, it's 5,000 bases. You start out with 15,000 bases. When you get to right around 5,000 bases, the cell reaches something called senescence. That's the death of the cell. And that's when, if you have an organ that's keeping you alive and the telomeres get to 5,000 bases, you're done. You're going to die. If it's like your eyes and they get to 5,000 bases, then you would be completely blind. If your skin's not quite there, you're going to have some serious issues with your skin because the telomere is getting shorter. So the shorter the telomere, the more problems with the symptoms of aging and degenerative issues. Now, Bill Andrews is the one who they've been trying to identify telomerase. My wife, when she was going to the university, she was in biology class. This was in 1989. They said, yeah, we know that the reproductive cells, the actual sperm and egg cells, they don't shorten on the telomeres. So if somebody's 40 years old, they're still this length. Even if they're 48 years old, they're still this length. They don't shorten. And they said, we don't know why in the biology class. We just can see it with the microscope, but we're trying to figure it out. And researchers have been trying to pinpoint. They theorized it was telomerase because they've been working with telomerase in plants and it's easier to identify in a plant. But on a molecular level in a human, it's much harder and more difficult to really see what's going on that level. Bill Andrews is the one who identified telomerase in humans. It was in 1994. And then when he identified it, he started inventing the equipment to monitor telomerase for induction. Like, could we turn it on like it is in the reproductive cells? And back to the reproductive cells, think about it. When somebody's 40 years old, when they deliver a baby, is that baby's skin, hair, eyes, organs, and bones 40 years old? Or is it younger than the parent? And it's quite obvious. There's no debate on that. The baby's skin, hair, eyes, organs, and bones are all younger than the parent. But the baby inherited the DNA from the parent. That means that the parent is carrying cells that are not aging as we think of aging. Because that baby came out perfect, right? Well, that's because the reproductive cells, their telomeres don't get short, so you don't lose any DNA. And if they do get short, the telomerase repairs it. Now, telomerase is in every cell in the body. And again, we've suppressed it more so, even more recently. On the cover of USA Today, it was April 2012, it said that children's telomeres are 10 years shorter than they used to be at their age, meaning that we've accelerated in the symptoms of aging and disease in pre-teenagers. So Bill Andrews is the one who identified telomerase that is working perfectly in the reproductive cells and not so perfectly in the rest of our cells. And he started working with human skin cells in vitro in a petri dish. And by 1997, he activated telomerase and got the telomere to grow back. So the telomere in the skin cells went from this back to this. That would be like reversing aging. But they didn't know what it was really doing because we're only talking about cells in vitro. But then that research turned into research being done with Dr. Ronald DeFino, who was able to work with, get the same processes that Bill was using from Bill, and then be able to activate telomerase in living mice. And mice are mammals, so they're operating on that same level as us on a cellular level. And they were able to activate the telomerase in mice. And I think I have the ABC News clip. Let's see if the ABC News
and
clip.
And now, eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosome, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding, but the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you could see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before the mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size.
Okay, so that's pretty amazing, right? On every level, there's a lot of articles that have been written up about those mice, their skin, their hair, even their bones were restored without changing their diet. Their activity level, their mental capacity was even restored. There's even pictures of their brain where the brain actually physically, the lean tissue grew and the brain actually got bigger because it atrophies as we get older. So from the mice and what they learned, that's where all the excitement started because they literally saw the possibilities now. Something that was like science fiction was now a reality. And what they witnessed with the mice is that the DNA could repair itself when telomerase was activated. And the school of thought before that was once you lose DNA, you lose DNA. In this case, down on that very foundational level, the DNA was restored. And then so that means the signal to the cell has gotten better, and then the cell mirror reflects that in the outside, like the skin and the hair they show there. But it wasn't just the skin and the hair. Like he said, it was a remarkable observation of what appeared to be the reversal of the aging process. So then it went to back to the petri dish with the skin cells and try and find compounds that you and I could consume to activate our telomerase. And I don't know what they thought going into that, but it turned out being a stalemate because they've spent, by 2009, Bill and his lab had spent over $30 million and had tested over 304,000 compounds, from a holistic natural approach to pharmaceuticals to inventing chemicals. And what you're looking at here is a graph that Bill Andrews uses to show, and these red lines represent a compound out of the 304,000. There's actually 8 of them that turned on the telomerase, and it grew the telomere back in the human skin cells, but all of them were too toxic. They couldn't be used for human consumption. So still at square one, basically, with getting this research to where it was now a reality with us as humans. So that brings, so what they were able to actually do, so here's a short telomere in the skin cells. With these 8 compounds, they were able to grow that telomere back. And then there was no limit to the amount of times that the skin cells would divide because they were healthy. And when they divided, they were just the same. They were healthy again, like the reproductive cells. They call them immortal cells. And the way that we look at aging is, the deterioration of the physical body anatomy. And there's no deterioration here in these skin cells in a petri dish. So they're now behaving like the reproductive cells. They theorized that if you could grow the telomere back and get all the DNA back, together, people would start looking and reverting back to what they looked like when they were 25 years old, somewhere around there. So that was a theory. But now on the mice, that's based on not theory now. They actually watched it with the mammal. And there was less than 100 articles written up prior to those mice. And now there's tens of thousands of articles. There was like about 2,000 articles in nearly 2 years, Bill said, after the mice, because it really showed the possibilities. And it was just like a whole breakthrough. It was a new breakthrough into human health and really how to address that human health in a way that it's never been addressed before. So that brings us to the John Anderson and Product B. And from here on out, I'm just going to talk about the supplement and not any of the issues that are derived from shortening of telomeres. Let's talk about how we can support our telomeres nutritionally. So we can't make any claims around curing anything because this is a nutritional supplement made from all natural botanicals and compounds. So Bill Andrews was introduced to John Anderson by a third party. It was somebody named Peter Greenlaw. And Peter knew both of them and realized that John Anderson could probably contribute to Bill Andrews trying to find some compounds that would work and still be safe. John Anderson's been a nutritional formulator for over 40 years for over 600 companies. He's formulated over 2,500 different health products. He made the MREs for the military. So he formulated for companies like GNC, Nature's Way, MetRx, Joe Weider, Nature's Sunshine. I mean, the list goes on, over 600 in 27 different countries. He's world renowned. He's a master herbalist. And he came up with a proprietary way with his experience and his passion on how to formulate through proprietary extractions that only he knows how to put together for different parts of the human anatomy. And his products that he produced are so effective, like they're like nothing you could get off of any other shelf. And so this is why Peter suggested maybe Bill Andrews meet John Anderson, teach him about telomerase and telomeres and on the level that Bill understands it. And then John could be up to speed on that part of the anatomy. And maybe he could come up with something that he already knows. And John Anderson, that's exactly what happened. John Anderson was so excited when it being introduced to Bill Andrews. And he said, I feel like I had contributed everything to humanity and changing their lives through nutrition and in impacting world health. But now that I've been introduced to Bill Andrews, I realize that was all preparatory. I feel like that perfectly prepared me for this. I've never been more excited. I'm building a brand new lab, only this time it's in my backyard, because I plan on spending 16, 17, 18 hours a day out there. I'm so excited. And he said, the lab's not quite finished, and this was in 2009, but I'm having equipment brought in and I'm having ingredients shipped in from around the world. And he said something very profound. I feel very optimistic learning from Bill Andrews. I would have formulated for telomeres a long time ago. I just didn't know about them. So what happened, and I'm going to show you a video here. There was a contract that was drawn up between Bill and John was going to start formulating and then send those formulations over to Bill Andrews' lab. The only lab in the world that could check for telomerase induction in human skin cells. Bill Andrews and his research team invented the equipment. And so that's very important, right, to know if your product's going to work. So John started formulating and sent those formulations over to Bill Andrews. Listen to what he says in this documentary, talking about John sending those formulations over.
That we'd seen for natural products, and we were pretty excited. It was the 11th compound we tested out of the first 15 samples that John Anderson sent us, and it was a hit. So we use the term hit in science a lot. So when we screen a lot of samples, we'll screen like thousands of samples at a time. But, I have to confess, at first we thought, wow, was he extremely lucky? Because we thought, how could he only be asking us to screen 15 samples? After screening thousands without a hit, we need a lot more samples than 15 if we're expecting to get a hit. But he got a hit. So he sends us another 15, and we get another hit.
Wow, in 30 attempts with natural ingredients, John got two bullseyes in just 30 attempts. So remember, they had tried over 304,000 compounds and tens of thousands of natural ingredients with no hits at all. Remember, the red line is the hit. So in 30 attempts, they got these 2 hits. The first one, there's really no explaining that. He said, we just thought he was super lucky. Like, wow, 15 tries and he got it. We were wondering why he only set 15. Thought it was kind of a waste of their time. But in the next 15, they got another hit. And then within the next 80, he got these 4 hits. And the longer the red line, the more effective it is at supporting telomeres and telomerase. So Bill Andrews, these were all natural ingredients. He said, I've never been more excited. John Anderson's a genius. And he wanted John Anderson to publish that, like that's what scientists do, right? And then they get recognition for it when it's validated. And wanted John to publish how he's getting the natural ingredients to do that. Because he said, we tried those natural ingredients. They didn't work for us. What are you doing? Write the papers up. John's like, yeah, right. That's going to remain proprietary. And this is going to go exclusively through my company, Isagenisis. So all natural ingredients, they ended up finding 12 hits. You're looking at 7 right there, and it was released in August of 2011. So we're getting right to the core of supporting the foundation of human health in a way that it's never been done before. And it released in 2011. I was able to get on it before it actually was released to the public. I started feeling and seeing results that I had never seen, being on a nutritional program by John already, for about 5 years at this point. And I started sharing it, doing meetings around it. It was released to the public, and I started seeing results with health that I had never seen before. And one meeting that I did at a Dr. Purcell's office pretty much spawned all the rest of the meetings I've done, which is getting close to about 2,000 meetings in the last 5 years. John's continued to send more ingredients over there to Bill's lab. And in 2012, they had a public release, a news conference or a press release. And John asked Bill, what if I could really pass these up, the tallest one? And Bill said that would be impossible to do from a natural botanical, even for you, John. And John sent 80 to 160 formulations every week. It's a lot of work. And by March 2012, he gets a phone call from Bill. You've exceeded our controls. I can't believe it. What are you doing over there? And Bill was super excited about that. It basically went off the charts. And he says, this is super exciting. At this point, he says, I'm never doubting John again. And then they found a few more hits bigger than that, and then they released fourth generation product B. So it just keeps getting refined, getting better. John keeps searching for those blueprints and the plants. Bill said you could go to the vitamin store and buy every one of the ingredients that are listed on the back of the bottle, and it won't produce what it is here. John's removing things and putting things together in combinations that you're just not going to get by taking the whole thing. So it's pretty exciting to be a part of this, and it's all natural. And you take 2 in the morning and 2 at night. So there's 120 that you can see down there at the bottom. You're doing 4 a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night, with or without food. So here's my results. Okay, I got on the products like Jill Birth. I got on the nutritional products back in 2005. It was the end of 2005. And like Jill, I had amazing results. That was after my first 2 programs. And then this right here for my personal results, that was a little over 4 months for me. And the results were just phenomenal. Everybody was asking me what I was doing, and I just had a blast. I was a mechanic for about 15 years, and I changed people's oil. But when I started sharing these products, because people approached me, because they saw the difference, it got really fun changing people's lives. And I've been doing it full time now for over 10 years. But when Product B came out in 2011, it was the end of 2011. I haven't missed a day, you guys. It's been about 5 years now. I have not missed a day. This is 2016. I just took that like maybe a month ago. I am looking younger, and I am feeling and able to do things unlike I've never done them before, even when I was a teenager. I'm at my junior in high school wrestling weight, but I didn't have stomach abs like that as a junior in high school. I'm telling you, this product is phenomenal on how it supports telomeres. And it's changing the landscape of human health and how we look at aging. I call it youthful aging. It's literally, after taking it for 28 months straight, I had amazing results. But at 28 months, I started thinking about motocross again. I hadn't ridden a motocross bike since I was like 16, and I never rode on a motocross track. My mom just wouldn't let me. So I always rode in the fields and things like that around the railroad tracks. And I went down, bought me a new dirt bike, bought me a new truck, and started going right to the motocross track and had a blast. And I would ride on that track longer than the kids that were in their teenage and in their early 20s. I would just keep going. I didn't want to get off. I didn't need to get off. And I would ride 2, 3, 4 days in a row. And I didn't need to recover. And they say now that motocross is perhaps the most strenuous physical sport that you could do. I watch a lot of Supercross. And I did my first race, got 3rd place, and then I did a race and got 2nd place. And it's just been amazing, the youthful vitality that I have and the physical appearance. What I love the most is my mental clarity and just cognitive ability. Things connect, and I remember things much easier. And it's just, I appreciate that the most, because I like to really critically think and try to figure things out. So that's a bucket list for me that I forgot about, but I hadn't thought about motocross for over 20 years. I started motocross at 46. I'm almost 49 now. So it's a bucket list for me that I would not have been able to do without Product B. So I started feeling like that youthful at 28 months of being on the product, but I had amazing results, way amazing results before that. That's just one that I really cherish. Bill Andrews' wife, Molly, she ran a race called Ultra the High. It's in the Himalayas. It goes up to 18,000 feet. It starts at 14, goes to 18, back down to 13, back up, and then back down. And it's 138 miles. And only 7 people have ever gotten to the finish line, because they give you 60 hours. If you make it after 60 hours, then you didn't make it to the finish line. That's the race. So you don't stop running. You don't sleep. It's a real test of endurance. They're ultra marathon runners, Bill and Molly are. So she didn't make it 2 years earlier. She gets on the Isagenisis products and starts taking Product B. Like Bill's handing her the pills. She's all, what are these? He's all, it doesn't matter. You're going to need them. You're doing that race again. So she runs the race. She's the 7th person to cross that finish line. And she says there's no question. There's no question that product B had something to do with it. Bill, after taking it for over a year, he did the race. He's the oldest to do it at 60 years old. He said there were kids in their 20s that didn't even get past the first peak. They ran into a snow blizzard on that first peak. After 3rd generation product B came out, he posted on Facebook that he's breaking records he'd set when he was younger. So at 60 or 61, he ran a race in Montana. It was the same race that he ran when he was 40. And he beat his old record by 50 minutes. And he said it was raining and muddy this time when I ran it. So that slowed me down, but I still beat my old record by 50 minutes. So pretty cool stuff. This is Amy Sauder's dad, and I did a meeting at Dr. John Laughlin's dental office in Wisconsin, and she was there. And she said her dad was about ready to be put into a nursing home. And this is the first picture here, right here, where he was, it says on the back of the postcard, Dad had his hand on the nursing home center doorknob. And then you can just see the transformation, the youthful aging. And he never went in, and he's living a normal life. She said he does a lot of work around town, just like charity work. So what a wonderful story. And to know that I was a catalyst in this being able to happen for a person, by going and opening my mouth and sharing with people something that I felt like people would want to know and need to know. There's so many stories. This is Bob Sheridan. I've done 2 meetings in his home in Las Vegas. This guy's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. He's famous around the world. In some places in the world, he has to have bodyguards with him because people just hoard around him. He announced all of Muhammad Ali's fights, even the Rumble in the Jungle. And in 2011, his cardiovascular system was just so weak they couldn't do anything for him. So my friends Dennis and Sharon Allen got him on Product B. And I'll just show you, this is 6 months later. Before that picture came up, he had me come to his home and do a meeting and explain what's going on to him, his wife, and his friends. He told Fight News when they interviewed him here that his wife Annie had put him on Product B, which works at a cellular level. It literally says that in the interview. And then this is him sitting at home in his recliner at 72 years old. Got to watch that transformation personally. So this is cool stuff, right? People that I know personally. So the product works. It's not under trial. We even have clinical studies around the catalase effect on it, and it's just incredible what it's been proven to do. So when we have something like this, our company depends on the users of the product, a certain percentage of them, to share it, to grow the company, because there's no advertising. You could have a way more quality product with greater effects by far when you don't have to pay an absorbent amount of money on advertising. I didn't know this, but some products, they could be paying up to 80% of the cost of the product is just going into the advertising. So they have to cut corners somewhere. And it's interesting that John Anderson, when he retired as a private label manufacturer, had an article written up on him, and he said, yeah, every company that I formulated for, they always compromised the product. He said it was really frustrating because I couldn't get what I was creating, from my mind and what this planet has to offer from around the world. It wasn't getting to people. I put it down on paper, where to get the ingredients, how to put them together, and there was not one exception. Every single one of them compromised the quality of the formulation. And he said it was frustrating. So now that he has his own company, and along with Jim and Kathy Coover, when they started up in 2002, he said no compromise. And their goal is to create more 6- and 7-figure income earners than any other company. So what I want to do is just share with you, whenever you receive something of value, not only do we have a moral obligation to share that with other people, like if we receive a lot of value out of it, but that's just something that we like to do. And so I want to share with you just a basic understanding of how you could get your products paid for. Or maybe you want to pay off that credit card debt, that just keeps looming there and is causing stress. Maybe your kids are going over on the data on your cell phone and you don't plan for those types of things. And so where are you going to get that money from? And it just causes stress. Maybe you're looking for a change in life, and while you're working your job, you could be doing part-time your home-based business in the pockets of your free time. That's what I did. I was raising 5 kids. I was a mechanic. I had a newspaper out, and I still found time to share this with people. You talk to maybe 2 to 5 new people a day. Minimum of 2 was my goal, 5 days a week, and my business grew pretty rapidly. So as I go into this, it's intended for training purposes. There's not any fixed or guaranteed incomes, but I'm going to show you just really basically how to get into income producing mode. It's super simple. The Perfect Storm of Opportunity, I would recommend reading this. It's by Paul Zane Pilzer, a Nobel Prize winning economist. He was running a bank, and I think it was Chase Bank, if I'm not mistaken, in New York City or Chicago. And when he was like 22 years old, he was put in charge of the bank. This guy's a genius when it comes to numbers and forecasting. He's always called it right. And he says, look, there's going to be a wellness boom, especially because you have the baby boomers and they're all getting older, and their number one priority is going to be their health. So he wrote up something called the Perfect Storm of Opportunity. You could print that up. Just Google it. There's a PDF. It's free. Educate yourself on, an opportunity. And then he wrote a book called The Next Millionaires, and how we're going to have a millionaire explosion because of the wellness industry and products that are going to pop up that people don't know about. And you can share it with people. They're going to want it and thank you for sharing it with them because they didn't know about it. And because there's no advertising. He's talking about the networking industry, the wellness industry. They're only going to hear about it word of mouth from somebody. So they'll thank you if it's going to be a solution for them, especially if it's a pretty dramatic solution. People are going to be thanking you. So he calls it intellectual information, because I don't have any warehousing. I don't stock any inventory. Our compensation plan is so easy and simple. Product users, one of our millionaires heard about the products, wanted to lose some weight, and from her Zumba instructor, I think she became the 181st millionaire. We're the 69th millionaires in the company. I think they just announced the 197th millionaire in our company, in Isagenisis. So this is more like intellectual information, because you're not going to collect transactions and have products inventory that you're giving to people. This is the 21st century. I mean, we don't do things that way anymore, right? So it's really simplified, and really what you're doing is making connections and building friendships and relationships with people through this type of business opportunity, which is really cool. So you start out as an associate, and it's $29 to get your membership. And sometimes they're running specials where they waive the membership if you buy a certain amount of product. So you'll just have to get with the person that got you here and see if that's going on right now and what the qualifications are for that. But $29, that's less than dinner and a movie. And that gives you, it enrolls you into Isagenisis. You're now on somebody's team. It's a placement thing, and it's all done through the internet and the software that runs it all. And you get your own website where you can monitor that. You can identify who's on your team, and you can also buy products wholesale. That's the main thing, is you get to buy the products the same price with the person who bought them from you, or who shared it with you. You're getting them for the same price they are. So they're not making money off of you. You're not making money off of your friends. You're sharing something that you found a value, and you want to share that with other people. The company pays us the advertising dollars. So we're not making any money off of our friends. We're just helping them. And you'll have new friends that you'll make as well as you talk to people about it. When you have something like this, they just start popping up, and conversations will start coming up around it. If the business is included, if you want to do it, it's built into the website that you get. And so if you want to do the business, you have to order your own personal volume, a certain amount that you're going to use on a monthly basis. If we're just talking product B, then 2 bottles of product B would do that. That's enough for 2 people. So maybe you and your spouse. So that it's called 100 PV. That's 100 in personal volume. Also, it could be referred to as 100 BV. That means business volume. It's both the same. 2 bottles of product B is just over 100 PV. It's like 102. If you did one of our meal replacement shakes, which I've been on those for over 11 years, and I typically do 2 a day, 1 shake a day and 1 bottle of product B. So I'm replacing 1 meal for under $3 a meal, and I'm getting my product B for the month. That's over 100 PV if I'm doing 1 shake a day and 1 bottle of product B. So it's pretty easy to meet that. I mean, my son does that. It's just crazy how low the qualifying order is. That means I don't have to, if I want to do the business, I don't have to buy inventory. What I would do is share it with other people. And the moment I share it with 2 people, I become a consultant, which means I now get paid on everybody that comes into my team. Word of mouth. So no matter who shares it, that's leverage, because I don't have to be the only one sharing. My team that's above me, my upline they call it, they'll be putting people under me if they're building a business. I'll be putting people in. And then those people will be putting people in, especially with a product like Product B. Product B is like the greatest breakthrough discovery of our time. That's what John Anderson said, our formulator. Bill Andrews said it moved his lab forward by more than 10 years when the first Product B came out. As it's evolved, he's like, I think we're at like 15 to 20 years now ahead of where we should have been. So something like this, you just want to pass it on. I mean, you're taking, Product B, Isagenisis, and you're youthfully aging, and people will even ask you what you're doing. But just knowing the information is very powerful. That goes along with perfectly what Bill Andrews was saying. You know more about telomeres now than 99% of the world. Most people don't even know the word, especially telomerase. So you have some information that's worth passing on to people according to Paul Zane Pilzer. Intellectual distribution. Sharing information about something that people don't know about yet. I totally knew that. And I got into action. And my particular results for me, because I got into a high level of action, produced me a 7-figure income annually. I'm in the 7-figure income club. That's making over $1 million a year. So that's leverage, residual, and passive income. Those are principles that every principle has a cause and effect. Those 3 things need to happen to generate wealth. If you have a job, those 3 principles aren't being instituted, because a job where you trade time for money, that's the exact opposite of those principles there. So it's allowed me to be able to have way more free time, way more quality time, and to do things that I've never been able to do before, financially speaking, with my family. So that's it. You get to consultant and you get paid on everybody on unlimited levels. And it's just 2 legs. It's a binary, and you get paid 6% on both legs. So it's a powerful compensation plan. 197 millionaires. It calculates daily and it pays you weekly. There's no blocking. There's no breakaways. Nothing. The deeper you look into this compensation plan, the better it gets. And the deeper your team gets, the better it gets. So get started today. It's $29. There's some other great products that we have. Phenomenal. Every product that Isagenics comes out with is uncompromised, where every other product that John Anderson had ever made for another company was compromised. We could make a company around any one of our products, but they're all together. You have your own health food store basically online. They've now put together, there's over 40 researchers, scientists that are working together in Isagenics and creating uncompromised products. You have your own health food store online. There's over 60 of them. So get back with the person that got you here, and thank you for joining us. I'm just going to check in. I'm going to turn the recording off now, and then I'll just check in and see if there's any questions or comments that anybody wants to make.